What's going on out there? How you all doing today? Man, we are excited about being here today. We're excited about this conversation that we're about to have with you. And I know you used to us being here on the first and third Thursdays of the month, but we're doing something just a little bit different. This is our first episode of the one-on-one with Dr. Sir. And so you don't see the guys with me. It's just me sitting there talking to one of our African-American male professionals who is an expert in what they do. And so we're excited that you decided to join us, that you're a part of this conversation. We got in a little late today, technical problems, but nonetheless, of course, you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, on our Twitter channel. You can follow us on www.nmhformen.org. All right. So without further ado, I want to bring to the table and bring to the conversation our guest, Mr. Aaron Hatcher. Aaron, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Nothing much. I appreciate you. Always enjoy being able to connect. So thank you for having me. I'm a little honored. First episode, so we're good. We're good to go.
Yes, man. Yes, I couldn't think of somebody better to have a conversation with. And just kind of how it came about, was I met you, when I bowled, and you worked there, and so you reached out and we had a conversation about a year ago. But then, just to be for full transparency, I was reaching out to you about some video work. It's like, oh man, that ain't my space. But I'm so happy, man, that we had the conversation we had. And I knew after that conversation, you had to be my very first guest, man. So before we get going, I need you to tell the people who are joining us today, and of course, you can ask questions. This is an interactive conversation. Now, I have to give a disclaimer that Aaron is not going to give you like financial advice, right? This is what he does for a living. So he's not going to tell you how to build your budget and all those other things and go really, really deep into that space. But you can reach out to him, and we're going to make sure you get his contact information so you can reach out to him and schedule a one-on-one conversation. Today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about our financial health, our financial wealth, and we're going to have a conversation about financial planning and how important it is to be in that space. So, Aaron, if you would introduce yourself to the people, let them know a little bit about you before we jump into those conversations.
Sure. So again, I'm Aaron. I'm a financial advisor at Northwestern. So my path to get to this point was a little crazy. I was a pharmacy student initially. I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist since I was 15. I just knew it. Went to pharmacy school, realized I couldn't do this the rest of my life. So taught for a little bit after getting my consolation degree, and went to school full-time for corporate finance. Was doing that, teaching, and doing an internship.
Okay.
Ended up starting my practice through an internship. I even tried to hire an intern while I was an intern. I wasn't playing any games, man. So yeah, it took a minute to start gaining traction. Eventually was a top intern in the country during that period.
Okay. And
went full time after that and started expanding ever since.
Okay.
So yeah, I enjoy being able to connect with people, especially people in our community. We don't necessarily always have that point person or that outlet in general to kind of get the guidance that a lot of other people have access to from jump.
Okay.
So I like to be able to be that soundboard for them financially, whatever that looks like when it comes to their long-term wealth accumulation. So that's what I specialize in. Make sure that you're able to put yourself in a position to retire when you want, build generational wealth, and not have to have a question mark when it comes to your financial standing in the grand scheme of things. You want to take that question mark out and make sure it's something solidified. So most of my clients, they have those same ideals, or they have that same kind of dream for themselves financially. So I help bring that to fruition, put things into perspective, give them a plan to kind of put into attack mode.
Okay.
And knock it out.
Right. So you're from the St. Louis community. So tell me what community you're from, because you know how St. Louis is.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm in North County. I went to originally from New York, but came here when I was younger. Went to Ferguson Florissant School District, graduated from McClure North. So, yep. I know everyone's going to have little feelings about where you're from, and especially North County, so I get it. But yeah, I'm really passionate about being open, schedule-wise, and, people that just have questions in general, don't really know where to turn to, don't really have a that outlet, or again, that point person to reach out to. So I make sure that I'm accessible.
Right. Well, we're going to jump into this conversation once again. If you're joining us, right, or even if you're viewing this a little bit later on, we're going to make sure that you have Aaron's contact and that where you can reach out to him. Also, if you're joining us through whatever means, make sure you share that with everyone. Let them know, hey, we're having a conversation about financial health, financial wealth, and financial planning. We want to make sure in the Black community that we do what's necessary in order to not have to do a GoFundMe when somebody passes away, right? So you talked about having a passion for this, and it seems that it's evident that the passion came when you started taking those classes. What'd you see once you shifted from pharmaceuticals to now financial wealth?
There's a gap for sure.
Okay.
Right. So just me and myself, you can look at any firm in the country. So a financial advisor, we'll just start with the role of an advisor, right?
Okay.
Financial advisor is going to reach out to the people that they can relate to, the people who have common interests, common backgrounds and whatnot. There's a disparity when it comes to the demographics of like my industry.
Okay.
So when we're thinking of it in terms of, okay, what does that look like? Well, 80-90% of my industry is, and of course we're talking about financial advisors, wealth management advisors and whatnot, middle-aged white males, dominated, and it's not even close. And I didn't start realizing it until I did start as an intern.
Okay.
So you're reaching out to, again, the people that have similar interests, similar backgrounds, people in your community. And you really realize how, whoa, all right, this is completely foreign to us in general. Obviously, you'll have your people that, oh, yeah, let's have a conversation, whatnot. It's completely foreign to us when it comes to an advisor reaching out to do some financial planning, to set you up with some investment planning, risk management, what have you. That's not common. And it's almost looked at as like, well, this is weird. What are we doing? They get in and like, hold on. I'll just do all that myself. Don't worry about it. What that turns into is middle-aged workers. They hit 50, 55. They take a step back and they say, oh, hold on. I want to retire in 10 years. How am I going to do that? What does that number look like? How am I going to reach that number? Oh, okay, now it's time to play catch up. I try to prevent that. Like with all my heart, So as long as we're able to do that, and then we're able to piece together a solid plan to make sure that you don't have to worry about having to come out of retirement and work so you don't run out of money. Having to make sure that you just want to be able to make sure that you have certain things taken care of, certain holes filled in, so that any hiccups down the line, or like a recession, which we will likely be coming into soon. If that hits throughout your retirement, we don't want you to be in a situation where you don't have the options to maybe not have to work, or have contingencies in order to where you can pull money from different places. We want you to have multiple streams of income and multiple streams of income supplements when you get to the point where you're not working anymore. So that happens a lot, and we see that there's a large gap in the people who are prepared for that and the people who aren't.
So why do you think? Why do you think that as an African American community, we have challenges in that area of financial planning, things like that?
Oh, that's dated for
Okay.
sure, right? So most of it goes back to old money,
Okay.
right? That's non-existent for Black Americans.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah.
don't have old money.
Mhm.
A lot of old money came from things that we didn't have access to.
Mhm.
Income from slavery, uh, businesses that we could not open or start, redlining that started to where we couldn't own property.
Okay.
That list goes on. And I think that when people realize those inequities, they kind of call it quits.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then that doesn't really put you in a position to build a legacy,
Okay.
because you're living for the now, and then the later means almost nothing, because we've never been able to gain any traction in that regard. So yeah, that's a dated topic, but it's you can conquer it. It just takes some work throughout your life to build for the future.
While you were growing up, was there conversations about financial planning and things like that went around on the kitchen table or what have you?
Oh no.
Okay.
No. This took some like self-reflecting,
Okay.
and it took just awareness.
Mhm.
So not even just self-awareness, but just awareness in general.
Okay.
So you take a look at your community, take a look at the people that are similar to you.
Mhm.
You take a look at where we are in life, and you say, okay, why is this like vastly different
Mhm.
than a lot of other people and demographics in the country?
Mhm.
We are not afforded the same start that a lot of other people are,
Mhm.
but we can get ourselves to that point if we put in the work.
Okay.
And once I realized that, I just started trying to be a sponge in that sense as much as possible.
When you say the word "put in the work," what does that mean? What does that look like?
It looks like your financial plan in general.
Okay.
So I talk to people, and I kind of get what their goals are.
Mhm.
So I just gather as much information as possible,
Mhm.
right? So people will tell me what their priorities are. Whether they're candid or not, as transparent as possible.
Mhm.
That's up to them. I know I can just take what they give me.
Mhm.
So if you tell me that your goals are to invest,
Okay.
and your goals are to be able to accumulate wealth and build generational wealth, and make sure that you are taking care of your risk management and making sure that you're able to retire and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. Um, Now there has to be some give and take in that sense,
Okay.
because we're generally speaking, we're all not millionaires, right?
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that we're on the right track to accomplish some of those goals.
Okay.
And if you aren't on track, it's not going to happen. And I'm the person to kind of let you know that you're not on the right path. Your trajectory isn't bringing you to where your goals are that you expressed to me.
Okay.
So yeah.
So one of the myths that we deal with in the community is that in order for me to gain financial wealth, I have to have a lot of money, right? And so many times we wait and we hope that we get an inheritance, we win the lottery, whatever,
Mhm.
we get big on the
Oh,
boat
yeah.
or whatever the case is, right? But even if we come into money, we still don't, have that planning. We still don't understand that financial management. So how do we debunk that myth of I need to have money to make money?
I think, well, I don't necessarily want to call it a myth,
Okay.
because the rich get richer as a saying
Okay.
is valid. I think we have to realize that someone has to start,
Okay.
right? There's not going to be just a home run hit that's just going to just, for generally speaking,
Uh-huh.
you have your isolated incidents, but it's not going to be a home run for you. It's just luck of the draw, you fall into $1 million. But if you put yourself in position, no matter what your income level is at, if you put yourself in a position to do the work and hey, whatever I make, I can put a percentage of that to my financial planning.
Okay.
That's how you have to look at it. And then I promise you, you will be better off than you were by maybe waiting till the right time,
Okay.
or because it's never going to be the right time. The right time is like always now. The right time is always to sit down. Whenever you are able to sit down, budget, figure out a good percentage that you're able to contribute to your planning. If you're able to do that, then the right time is always now. There's no sitting around waiting for it.
I like that. The right time is always now. And so sometimes I think that that we are people who we want immediate gratification for the things that don't appreciate or build value, but for the things that build value, we don't have that patience, to be able to wait and to build for it. So what I'm hearing you say is it's about generational wealth, right? So it's about me becoming educated and then sacrificing, right? But at the same time, educating my home, my children, my community, or whatever the case is, about the same thing. And that's how over time we build that generational wealth.
Right. So I can't necessarily say it is about generational wealth.
Okay.
For me, absolutely.
Okay.
For you, I would assume. I try to get that from every single one of my clients. There's no cookie cutter approach to financial planning in general and wealth accumulation and wealth management. But if you express to me that those are the goals, right, then you have actions that need to take place to make sure you reach them, to make sure that they're attainable. If generational wealth, you express to me, hey, I want to make sure my family's good. I want to make sure that I'm good throughout retirement. That is when it says, okay, well then now this is what needs to happen. And I try not to, judge you if you're at a point where you're like, yeah, I want to live in the now. That's perfectly fine. Let's do a plan for that. Hey, I want to be able to make sure that my family has whenever I'm gone, I want to make sure my estate is set. I want to make sure I did my estate planning. I want to make sure my wealth is able to transfer as efficiently as possible without the government taking a cut of it. Anything like that. Okay, well then you have certain steps. You have certain resources available to you to make sure that happens. But a lot of people will have those goals, but their actions kind of contradict it. So that's what matters. Your goals and your actions aligning.
Okay. We're going to get into some of the technical terminology. So what's the difference between a financial planner and a financial advisor, or is there a difference?
So typically when you say a financial planner, we're talking about a comprehensive approach to your wealth management, right? So a financial advisor is dependent. It varies from firm to firm, but if you're looking at it industry wise, it's kind of an umbrella term. So you're able to maybe you're looking at the banking end. Maybe you're looking at the investment side. Maybe you're looking at risk management when it comes to like life insurance or income protection or things of that sort. Or maybe you're a comprehensive financial planner. And that's where you take a look at all aspects of your financial planning in general, and then make sure that they're all cogs fitting together to make sure that everything's working smoothly to get you to where you want to be.
All right. So when we talk about the foundation of financial health, right? What would you say is what would be the foundation to reaching a financially healthy situation, home, or what have you?
It starts with, first your risk management. Right. People don't want to hear about
that.
Yeah. So risk management when you want to make sure you have an emergency fund. That number is going to vary from person to person, household to household, whatnot. So you have to find out what that number is. If you're secure in your job and your income is pretty steady, it doesn't fluctuate, you know what you're making, maybe that number isn't as high as it is for someone who maybe is a business owner and their income fluctuates, or someone who works on commission and they have no clue what they're going to make. That's something you have to figure out with your advisor to see, hey, what's a good number for me to be at?
Okay. When you use the term risk management, it almost sounds like are those things that could lead us deeper into poverty or debt?
It can be like catastrophic to
Okay.
your wealth in general.
All right.
So let's say you get sick or ill and you're not able to work anymore.
Okay.
What are you going to do at that point?
Mm-hmm.
If you, God forbid, you pass away, what's your family going to do at that point?
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about your risk management, you look at things like that.
Okay.
What are some things that can overturn your financial progress like thus far? And a lot of times that's killing your biggest asset.
Mm-hmm.
And your biggest asset, and no matter who you are, is your ability to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get to the point where you're sick or hurt, how we can do all the fancy financial planning in the world.
Okay.
But if it gets to the point where you're not able to bring in that income anymore, all of that's out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do the defensive planning. So like sports, defense wins championships.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that to round out your long-term goals.
Okay.
So you're going to need to do your risk management. You're going to make sure you have income protection. You got to make sure you have your life insurance. Yeah, those are the boring things, but you have to knock those out so that you're able to have the flexibility to do your offensive planning moving forward.
Okay.
So that's where we start off with for the most part when we're doing family planning, financial planning, and whatnot, and make sure your basic risk management is done, and then we take a step moving forward. Again, I do want to touch back on the emergency funds.
Okay.
That is a situation where, again, that varies. I just wanted to get a few key variables.
All right.
Your income, and then your expenses.
Okay.
And then you probably want to have 3 to 6 months of your expenses in your savings account.
Okay.
So that those are the three things you want to make sure you're doing. So you want to make sure you have your savings account / emergency fund, whatever you want to call it, fully funded. You want to make sure you have your income protection, and you want to make sure you have your life insurance.
A lot of times they say that the emergency fund should be a separate fund from your savings.
Again, that's very, very, very subjective.
Okay.
If you're someone who lacks like self-drive or your self-control, you may want to put that away somewhere you don't really have access to it.
Okay.
A lot of times, if you putting yourself into a situation where you're working with an advisor, you usually have some type of self-control or some type of drive, some type of goals in mind. So you're not going to do things to hinder that.
Okay.
So as long as your money, your emergency fund or your savings or your nest egg is somewhere where it's safe, i.e. like maybe not in the stock market per se, then you should be good to go. Okay.
You know, speaking of stock market, I know that that there were some splits and things like that, and a lot of people was excited about that that move or what have you. When individuals are looking at financial planning, is that a part of possibly a plan? Is looking at stocks, mutual funds, things like that, or are we looking at more so things that they could lay to the side that is more, I would say, less liable to the market?
Yeah, no. So there's no financial, you have your basics that we just discussed, your emergency fund and your risk management.
Okay.
But there's no financial plan without investments in general.
Okay.
It's impossible to get to the point where you are doing real planning without investments.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, it is very, very time consuming to be able to watch the stock market 12 hours a day. You're not going to be able to do it. Most people aren't going to be able to do it, which keeps advisors busy and employed, right?
Okay.
So I will say that when it comes to your splits and your it's good knowledge to have,
Okay.
but that shouldn't affect your long-term plan.
Okay.
So my clients that have the ability to say, hey, I have a little extra money, I'm going to mess around with options or individual stocks.
Mhm.
That's beautiful, right? Be a sponge in that sense. Get as much knowledge as you can. But that's not going to affect your solid plan that you've already built.
Okay.
So you have to make sure you have that set in stone before you venture out and do very risky things like option trading or individual stocks,
Okay.
high equity securities. You
Okay.
know, you want to make sure you're in a situation where, hey, I know I have this set in stone to put me where I want to be. I have a little extra. Let's see if what we can do, see what makes sense moving forward on that end. So that's two different entities when we're talking about that.
So after the foundation has been
Exactly.
laid, and okay, when we're looking at education, financial education, how critical is that to our community?
It's very critical. I learned that around the same time that I learned that our representation in the financial service industry is very low.
Okay.
And I think it's a product that they all tie in together.
Mhm.
The more knowledgeable we are about finances, the more our wealth accumulates.
Okay.
It's just a correlation that's not going to change,
Mhm.
and that's for anybody. You realize how things work. You realize how money works.
Mhm.
And then you start to use it to your advantage. And I think the main issue is that most people just have no clue how money works
Mhm.
and how it works for you, and the concepts that help you compound.
Mhm.
And it just does. It's not there. The knowledge isn't there,
Okay.
but we have access to it. So as long as you are willing, you're able to be a sponge in that sense.
Mhm. So I'm a client, and I'm an individual. I'm a Black man who wants to see my family do better, right? And I want to try to leave something behind. And I reach out to you, and I schedule an appointment. What does the first part of that appointment look like as far as the basics? I know there's some individualized things, but as far as because sometimes that's the fear, why the person don't pick up the phone and call, because they don't know what to expect, right? And we can only talk from you. We can't speak for all financial planners or advisors, but what would that conversation look like? When I sit down.
So for my practice, there's not going to be a lot of people have how much is it going to cost? That's what people are thinking, right? So there's not going to be a fee to have a conversation with me.
Okay.
There's not going to be, it's not going to be a fee, and that's the biggest deterrent when it comes to that. People feel like they don't make enough money for a financial advisor, and they feel like they can't afford one if they did.
Okay.
So I kind of want to just get that out the way right now. People think that if you take a meeting, you're going to get a bill in the mail. That doesn't happen. But I do just gather as much information from you as I can.
Okay.
And then we're having a conversation like we're having now about your values, about what your goals are, what you're looking to accomplish. And then that's when you get professional recommendations on how to implement certain things to help you bring those goals to fruition.
Okay. All right. When I think about it, and we had a conversation, and I really started to think more about our conversation afterwards. It really is about first values and goals, right? And so and how important it is to recognize those. How can we help someone recognize when their values are self-defeating to where they say they want to be financially?
The biggest thing is showing people a correlation between the goals that they're expressing and the actions that they're putting out there on a daily basis or monthly basis, however you want to look at it. If you tell me that you want to build generational wealth or retire by 55 or 60, I'm going to show you what needs to happen to get to that point.
Okay.
And then at that point, you're making the decision to be self-defeating. At that point, you know what you need to do, because the plan is set in stone. The plan's not going to fail you. You can fail the plan, but the plan's not going to fail you. So it's all on the actions that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So that's why it's important to build habits, healthy habits financially, to make sure that you're able to say, hey, I know that maybe, it's getting a little hard right now, but I know I'm doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm putting myself and my family in a better situation in the future and for generations to come.
Mhm.
So again, like if you have those specific priorities, then you'll have the necessary steps to bring that to a reality.
How do we mend the fear that African Americans have? Because we've seen banks, that our monies was in and it went under. We saw communities being destroyed, such as Black Wall Street, other places, even as close as, like communities here in St. Louis, Kinlock, which was a thriving African American community, and its downfall, Robinson, places like that. Even people don't realize Clayton was a predominantly Black.
I didn't realize that until I took
Yeah.
a African American St. Louis tour.
Yeah.
That bus tour. Yeah, I had no clue.
Yeah, Clayton, all those.
Brentwood
Yes.
area.
Yes.
Richmond Heights.
So how do we mend that or resolve that fear that exists? That, man, I'm gonna just put my money up under my pillow. Or put it in a can and bury it.
Yeah, I think that no, because that's serious.
Yeah.
You have to learn how money works. Again, that does nothing for you. If you take $50,000 over 10 years and put it under your pillow or in a safe, or even in the bank, it's not gonna. What's gonna happen if you do that for 10 years? What's gonna happen in 10 years? You're gonna have $50,000. Is that $50,000 going to be $50,000? Probably going to be like 45. If you put that same $50,000 just in the appropriate place, depending on what your time horizon is, your risk tolerance is, you're going to take a step back and say, oh, okay, that's actually worked for me. That's done something to me. That's accumulated.
Okay.
It didn't depreciate. It didn't lose spending power. I'm not losing to like the system that is in place in America. I'm able to overcome that because I took the steps to utilize the resources that we have that weren't available to us before. We were put in situations to where we couldn't even go to like open up high yield accounts, or we were discriminated upon when it came to getting general portfolio accounts set up. And those are things that we didn't have access to then that we do now. And we can't necessarily be bitter about it. We have to be proactive in taking strides and making strides to make our future generations to come way better off. We want to, if that's your goal, again, I try to make sure that it is very much your goal as much as mine. And that's another thing as well. You want to work with an advisor that shares the same ideals, because that's important to me, being able to accumulate wealth. If that's not what you're looking to do right now, then maybe you don't need an advisor. But if you're looking to be able to say, hey, after 10, 15, 20 years, the money that I have has accumulated and has appreciated, then you're now in a good position to move forward with some work. So yeah, just don't be bitter toward what has happened when it comes to our finances and our community.
Okay.
We just have to we just have to work a little harder to get to the point where we're able to be a little more liberated.
One of the things I was thinking about is, and you kind of alluded to this, is the instability of our society going forward, right? And so we're seeing gas prices go up. We're seeing almost like there's a lack of food. There are some food shortages. There are some product shortages, things like that. How do we talk with individuals when they're seeing all this go around and they're saying, okay, well, I know I want to do this, but I'm concerned about just, what tomorrow is going to look like in society. Forget the past. I'm worried that tomorrow, depending on who's in power, what political party or whatever the case is, then, I lose.
And that when you say that and you really think about that, what's your first thought process? Oh, I need to hold on to my money, right?
Yeah, that's
literally the opposite of what you should do.
Really,
that's not safe. That's not safe for. If you put your money in the bank account again, what's happening with that money? Absolutely nothing. But what's happening to everything around that money? What's it doing? Increasing.
Yeah.
What's gas prices? Increase. Your $5 in your bank account did not increase, but that $2 gas price shot up to $5, and now you have lost that spending power.
Okay.
You put it in the right places. You just have to get a good understanding of what that looks like. So whether it's individual brokerage account, and individual investment account, if you have some mutual funds, if you put it into a general portfolio, you want to make sure you're putting your money in places that's going to work for you, so that when inflation does hit and spike, you do have contingencies in order to say, hey, thank God I had set myself up to make sure I'm able to combat that. Now I do understand that people. There are people who don't want to prioritize that, but that's different than the people who just don't have the ability to.
Okay.
There are some people, a lot of us that don't have the income, and that's something you have to work on to increase. You have to increase your revenue to the point where you're able to do some planning, and I think that's where people kind of, a lot of people are in that space where they don't specialize to increase their income. And that's a key. You have to give yourself the opportunity to be successful later on down the line. So if you're being very static and you're comfortable, then you have a very, very low chance of being able to knock out some of the goals that you have for yourself. You have to specialize. You have to make sure you're getting yourself in the position to raise your income so that you're able to really produce when it comes to, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line.
One of the things we think about when we hear that word multiple streams of revenue, we think about multiple jobs, right? So we got this job, a part-time job, might have a side gig, things like that, but when we talk about multiple streams of revenue, it's a different, that you're using it in a different connotation, right?
Yeah. So it usually takes some time to get to that point, because, most times when we're meeting with someone, what do they want to do? I want to own real estate. I want to, so that takes capital. Capital takes you to be able to sacrifice to say, okay,
explain what capital is in case somebody's listening.
This is the money that you're the access to money, liquid that you have.
Okay.
So if you have, $20, $30, $40, $50,000, okay, you're well on your way to be in a position to buy property. Okay. You're probably going to be in a way to expand yourself and be able to have those multiple streams of income, like buying a duplex or any type of income generating investment. If you have the ability to generate that and you're not prioritizing that, then you have to really take a step back and say, hey, am I really doing the things that I know I need to do to knock out the goals that I have? Okay. So multiple streams of income. Some people are talking about other jobs, multiple jobs, but a lot of times people want passive income. And to get passive income, it means you have to put yourself in a position to pour into those aspirations. Okay. You have to have that capital to make sure that you're able to accumulate those assets that give you income like on a regular basis. It's attainable, but a lot of people don't really, they think they want it, but when it comes to taking action, it kind of waver a little bit. Okay. Be sure about it and let's knock it out.
Make a decision. Okay. One of the conversations now is we have individuals that having conversation on whether even owning a house brings any value, brings financial value to our life, and so because of all the issues that's been with the housing market and things like that, and the continual rise of taxes and all that other stuff, property taxes and stuff. What as a financial planner, how do you have that conversation with individuals?
And the housing market can be, and historically it's volatile.
Okay.
But that is not to say that it's a poor decision to be a homeowner. It's not to say it's just, it's not a flat out black or white answer to that.
Okay.
Because if you're a homeowner and your next step is to buy another property to rent out, well, yeah, that can't be looked at as a bad thing. You're literally generating income on a monthly basis for yourself.
Okay.
That's letting you be able to expand. But, traditionally speaking, a lot of people are just thinking about, hey, I've always heard that I'm supposed to be a homeowner. Yeah, your home's going to build equity. It's not going to be a ton at first, but it is going to build equity. And you're going to have ups and downs in the housing market. As long as you are steady with your ideals, then you can't say one is right or wrong. It's completely up to the discretion of the homeowner in that sense. But don't let anyone tell you one's right or one's wrong.
Okay.
It's completely up to you. Depends on what goals you have. If you want to be settled in a home to where you can get to the point where you don't have to, pay a mortgage anymore because you own that property. Obviously, you want to be a homeowner. But if your main goal is to have other ventures, then a lot of people don't see any problem with renting while they're out expanding, because it's a lot goes into a home.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you have that like entrepreneurial mindset, you're out and about, and you don't have the time isn't there. It's only 24 hours. So a lot of people don't mind renting in that sense because they're out diversifying in the market, whatever market that looks like for you.
You, speaking of entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur. You have your own. You have your own business, right? The financial planning. What are some of the challenges that you see with being an entrepreneur that could possibly help us understand from a financial lens?
It's a grind. Like it's not that. And I think especially since COVID, people have started trying to pick up ventures and then realize, this isn't for me. And one of the biggest reasons is that steady income.
Okay.
Especially when you're starting off, right? A lot of people are used to having that paycheck and they're like, all right, I'm cool. A lot of people do not have the resolve or the self-discipline to say, okay, I might make this month. I have no clue what I'm making next month. So I have to make sure that I am putting my money up wisely or spending it wisely. That can happen. That fluctuation in your income, that'll hit you. So that's a big part. And then being able to actually save money to pour it back into your business.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest challenges, to be able to get the amount of money that you need to pour back into your business, to where you're going to take a hit initially, but then in the years to come, that's allowed you to expand. And then that's when you start hitting your peak. So usually if you have that entrepreneurial mindset and that's the field you're in, you're going to have a sluggish start, and that's just how it works. You're going to have that 5-year, 6-year period where you're like, all right, am I even going to make it? But then when you take the necessary steps, pour into your business, make sure that you're setting yourself up for longevity, then you're going to be good.
So I know you do personal financial planning, but we have a lot of people that start nonprofits and things like that. Have you had individuals reach out to you and say, look, I wonder, can you help me with some planning and budgeting and things like that as they're starting to build? Because although a nonprofit is not like, it's not directly an entrepreneurial venture, but it really is somebody birthing out their dream or the vision or whatever their purpose is, right? So have you had conversations with individuals about that?
I do business planning as well. So my team is pretty well rounded. We have a good network of people that are able to sit down with you, help map out your goals, and make sure that you're able to accomplish them in a reasonable time period. So business planning is definitely a go when it comes to our process.
Man, I think that conversations like this
Mm.
are so necessary. When we're sitting down, there's one other topic that I want to talk about, and that's life after death, right? And the
yeah.
idea of planning for funerals,
Mm.
insurance, and things like that. And we've seen that, in particular in our community, um, where someone passes away
Mm.
unexpectedly or even expectedly sometime, and we do GoFundmes and things like that. Um, how do you help individuals understand that, look, we're not promised to be here forever, and to really invest in that insurance, whatever
Mm.
it takes, and help. Like, for instance, for me, it's important for me that if something happens to me, that my wife does not have to do a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
But I also want to be able to leave, some money for my grandchildren,
Oh,
to
yeah.
be able to maybe help them with paying the first year of college or something like that. So how do we get individuals to kind of understand that part?
I think there are a lot of misconceptions in
Okay.
general. Well, for one, let's start with like we're not invincible, and like you said earlier, we're not all promised to live forever. Like, well, no, literally, no one is promised to live forever. That's like the one biggest guarantee.
Exactly.
At some point, you're going to pass away,
Mhm.
and that's it. What you do leading up to that point will determine how you valued what you're leaving behind.
Okay.
So if you want to leave a legacy, and when we say legacy, we're not just talking about the thought of you. We're talking about your.
So I sure do remember Papa.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people put that higher than anything. Obviously, that's important, but you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a good situation to leave a good amount to your estate. That's the biggest thing that I'm able to do when it comes to that, and not necessarily just for the dark aspect of it, but you want to make sure that you. I love to have people get to the point where they're trying to avoid estate tax.
Okay.
That means you've done the deal, you've done your job up to that point, and you've made enough money to say, hey, when I do pass away, I don't want 40% of that going to the government. I want to make sure that my money's going to my family. So we make sure that you're able to do that as efficiently as possible.
That's something
right?
we don't think about either.
No, because it's like pipe dreams. We want to. That doesn't seem like a reality for us.
Okay.
But the work will get you to that point, so where it is reality. But a lot of people also just have no clue what that looks like. Oh, you say something like life insurance, they're just like, oh yeah, the biggest thing. I got that through work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, actually, I think that I hear in general when we're talking about financial planning.
Okay.
I have that through work. That's what like most people think. It is not your employer's job to retire you. That's not their goal. They're not thinking about, okay, how are we going to retire John Doe? We just got to make sure he's fine throughout retirement. That's not what they're thinking about.
They're not thinking, well,
they're not.
We want to make sure that John,
Exactly.
He travels and he sees the
we
world.
want to make
He was
sure.
such a great employee.
Yeah, I have the life insurance, I have 401k. I'm good. I'm all set. I appreciate it, man. Well, actually, what's going to happen is you're going to get to the point where you have a certain amount in your 401k, and then you retire, and then you're sitting on whatever 300, 400,000. Well, if you even if you use 50,000 of that a year, how long is that lasting you?
Yeah, about 6 years.
Were you planning on dying in 6 years? All right, just hopefully I'm gone. But no, you want to make sure that you utilize your 401k and your employer sponsored retirement plans and your employer sponsored benefits when it comes to like your insurances and whatnot. But you have to make sure you're putting yourself in this position to where when it comes to the point where you're exhausting those things, you're not left in the dark. You're just not left on E.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you have contingencies in order to where, let's say you retire. Okay, now what happened to the benefits that your employer had? What happened to your life insurance and that then? Well, now you're 60. Now you're 65. Where's your life? You retired now. Where's your life insurance that your job had? You don't have it. So what are we doing now? No, that's why you want to have additional coverage to where, when you do retire, you're able to still say, hey, I know I'm able to leave a legacy. I know that this is going to whoever, whomever. You want to make sure you do your estate planning, and to do that, you have to make sure that you have enough money to leave to your estate. And that's just one, like life insurance is just one of the ways to make sure that you're able to do that. Again, obviously, people are going to be grieving. You don't want to put a financial burden on them as well, especially people that you have children, grandchildren and whatnot. You want to make sure that you're able to provide for them, even in an untimely death. And in my opinion, every single death is untimely. I don't know what a timely death is. Like, it's just they're all untimely.
Well, I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as a timely death. They're all untimely. So make sure you're putting yourself in the best situation to be able to mitigate all the risks that come with it.
Man, I've enjoyed this conversation. So I want you to talk to the people that's listening in and that's had an opportunity to join us, and those who are going to be joining us a little bit later in the rebroadcast. Or we have quite a few members who follow our YouTube page. Talk to them a little bit and talk to them about what they need to hear to make that decision.
Well, again, this is only like at the surface, very, very surface level material that we've just talked about in this brief conversation. Anytime you're curious about what that looks like for you personally, you can always just hop on my schedule and we can have a conversation and see what that looks like. It's very casual. It's very just almost identical to what we're doing now. Just figure out what's important to you and how we can make sure that happens, and that those are some goals that we knock out. As long as that's the case, then there's no way it can hurt you. If you're in a point where you're like, man, I just want to be able to make more money until I get to that point, that varies from person to person. But one, you have to do the work, and then two, you have to do the work with the money that you are able to have a little discretion with. Are you going to go out to eat 5 days a week, or are you going to cut that down and put a little aside to build up in the right places? Are you going to spend X amount of dollars on food a month or clothes and shoes, or are you going to say, hey, all right, I've done that. It felt good at that point, but now I have other standards I'm looking to uphold. Those are the important decisions that you have to make moving forward when you get to that point. And when you are at that point, where you're at that, mindset, then that's when you start really opening your eyes to the possibilities that are afforded to you. So whenever that gets to the point, you can always call an advisor. Even if it's not, of course, I would love to work with all of us in our community, but I truly wouldn't even mind any advisor. Work with anybody. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. Get a good feel from them. Make sure they're actually advisors. I think that's a big thing. People don't realize that you can just check and see. Let's literally go to broker check and
if
see
they're certified.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's literally just brokercheck.com. Type their name in, see what that looks like. If their name pops up, they're likely an advisor. If it doesn't, maybe they're in some other industry. I mean, they just sell life insurance. They're trying to just make, that happens a lot. I think there's a misconception there too. Not every financial advisor is not every financial advisor is a financial advisor. You got to make sure that you have the credentials to actually give professional recommendations when it comes to your investments. Get a good feel for the advisor, and if it makes sense and they share your ideals, then it should be a go. I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't be.
Right. Well, give them that contact information, and we're going to make sure that we put it also on our website. So give me a contact.
So I'm Aaron Hatcher, or Aaron K. Hatcher, on everything. And my schedule is also on everything, my calendar. So if you go to my LinkedIn, Aaron Hatcher, you'll see schedule a meeting right under my name. You can click that, pick a day or time that's available that works with your schedule, and we will talk soon. Or if you see, scroll 2-3 weeks out and you just don't see anything, you can give me a call to make sure that let's see if I'm flexible, because I usually am, especially if you actually call me. I'll definitely try to work with you to make sure that we're able to have a conversation. That's 314-322-2335. And also that schedule's on like my Facebook page too. So Aaron Hatcher, and my business page as well. So Aaron Hatcher, financial advisor. So I have multiple ways to get in contact with me. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to have a conversation. So anyone that's able to or willing to have a conversation with an advisor, it can do nothing but benefit you.
We have one question.
Yeah.
And so the question was, let's go here. It says, what would you say to people who think that investing is a pyramid scheme?
I understand that thought process, because especially like nowadays, you'll hear crypto or Forex or things. Those are like probably the two big trigger words that you want to say, okay, what's going on? And the reason is because it's not regulated. So anyone that is giving you advice, they're not giving you advice from any standard. They're giving you advice from their own opinion, or they're selling a course or copying someone else's trades. They're not necessarily masters of their craft, and they don't have any standard to live up to when it comes to that. So be wary of that. And again, when you're saying it like that, that's another thing that I was alluding to when it comes to just, hey, what's your name? What credentials do you have? Talk to the person, and if they shy away from questions like that, then it's probably more of a gimmicky type deal going on, or a pyramid scheme. Investing itself can't be a pyramid scheme, because you are putting your money into companies, Fortune 500 companies that are doing well, that are mainstays. So investing in general is really just that. Now, again, when you hear those trigger words, you want to make sure you kind of put your antennas up. But investing in general just can't be a pyramid scheme. But you want to make sure you're doing your research on who you're working with. Make sure they're at a credible company. Make sure they're at a credible brokerage firm, investment firm. If you do that, you do your homework, then you're likely in a good situation. That way, they're regulated by FINRA and the SEC, to where they can't do you any harm financially without dealing with repercussions.
That was good. Thank you for sharing. So thank you all for joining us today. This is the first, and I know you're used to seeing the other guys that joined me today. And so we're looking forward to having these conversations and bringing guests to the table that can have specialized conversation on things such as finances, or when we're looking at debt, things like that, that's going to help us grow as men. Aaron, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pray us out. Lord, we thank you. Praise you for everything that you're doing for us today. We ask that the words that's been spoken by Aaron, that they will be a blessing to someone as they listen to this and say, what can I do to get my financial situation in a more healthy state? We ask that you would continue to bless Aaron and his team as they grow, Lord God, and that our community, the Black community, will continue to grow, and that we will prosper only in you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Till next time, we'll talk to you.